Hey everyone, it's Hans, and welcome back. For the longest time, I have been a fan of the Pokémon franchise. If you are a subscriber to my channel, you'll know that I have previously unboxed the Pokémon trading card game on my channel, as well as some pretty cool Pokémon paraphernalia. Well, today I'm going to be continuing that trend with the Wand Company's Pokeball Replica. Probably one of the coolest sort of collector's edition replicas that I've purchased in recent memory, more so because it has to do with Pokemon. In particular, that interesting and unique Pokeball, that wonderful device that somehow allows trainers to keep Pokemon with them on their belts in teams of 6. At the very least, who knows? Maybe in some offshoot of the universe, you can have as many Pokeballs as you want and collect them like marbles. Well, without further ado, let's have a look at this Pokeball replica and see whether or not it is worth your moolah. So the box itself is actually quite cool, and right in the front you can see that this is a Pokeball replica. When you turn the box around, you can see that there is a case for the Pokeball, which we'll get into more detail as this review goes along, as well as some information on the back, which just tells you about the Pokeball, the materials that it's made of, and what it is capable of. On the top, you can see that there is an emblazoned Pokemon logo. And when we open it up, the first thing that you're greeted with is the instruction manual, which I have to admit is something you definitely want to keep for this thing. So in terms of the instruction manual, there are quite a few things this Pokeball replica can do that I actually wasn't expecting, but came as a really pleasant surprise. Thereafter, you'll pull out some styrofoam packaging, which also has the Pokeball. So if anything, it looks like the Wand Company is a stickler for detail. And the nice thing is that what we see on the packaging does transfer through to the actual replica as well. Once you've opened it up, you can see that the Pokeball is right there, as well as the case that the Pokeball can be contained within for display purposes. Now, in terms of this display case, it's actually pretty cool. It has some functionality built into it, which I'll get into a little bit later, and it's also fairly hefty, coming in at roughly 200 grams. On the bottom is a unique serial number to prove that this is a genuine Pokemon replica. There's also a tag there that you can pull out, which activates the battery, but a little bit more on that later. Next up is the coup d'etat, the actual Pokeball, and it is a delight. This thing is incredibly weighty. It comes in at about 250 grams, which for a replica is really interesting. But more importantly, it has the most incredible feel to it. Because of its weight and all metal construction, it feels like a petanque ball, if anyone's played that game before. But overall, it's incredibly well designed. It's hefty. You just want to throw it, but you really shouldn't, since this is a replica and this will dent and scratch. So after quite a decent unboxing experience, the time comes to enjoy your Pokeball. It is apparently a full-sized replica, so this is actually what size Pokeballs would be in the real world, and it is incredibly well made. Now, both spheres of the Pokeball are made out of a metal. I understand that it is a stainless steel with a wonderful painted coating, which is almost like a car paint. That's the kind of quality that I'm talking about here. With each of the spheres segmented by a plastic black ring, culminating in a plastic button in the front. And the reason why this is plastic is because it harbors the batteries for the Pokeball. It makes changing batteries in the Pokeball a pretty pleasant experience, because as somebody who really enjoys collectibles, sometimes getting to the battery compartments can be a really challenging procedure. Now, with that in mind, this actually surprised me a little bit. I initially thought that maybe, you just display it in its box and, put it on the shelf. But this thing actually has some really cool touch capabilities. In this sense, the entire ball acts like a conductive surface, kind of like those lights that you can change the brightness by touching the base. So the Pokeball works in a very similar way. When the Pokeball is not being held, that light will pulsate and eventually stop pulsating. And as you bring your hands closer to the Pokeball, you'll see how that light begins to light up, but only really becomes fully bright once you've touched it. There are also some other cool features like pretending that you're throwing the ball, which once again you shouldn't do because this is a replica, and it will emulate whether or not you've caught a Pokemon. Depending on how many times you press the button will depend on the kinds of modes that are activated with the Pokeball. So if you press the button once, it will go through the motions of pretending as if you're trying to catch a Pokemon. And in so doing, you'll either get a red for oops, you haven't caught the Pokemon, or green for yeah, you now have the Pokemon that you've just tried to catch. And in this sense, it's a really cool interactive element to the ball, as if the capacitive touch wasn't already good enough. And these are just some of the really cool and interesting aspects of this Pokeball replica that really sort of give it that extra bit of like pizzazz, like wow factor. So in terms of the Pokeball display box, it is a plastic shell which has been painted with a metallic silver, and it comes in at roughly 200 grams, so it's fairly weighty but not as heavy as the 250 gram Pokeball itself. I must admit, would have been nice if it was also metal. With that said, there are some pretty cool features that this display case has that I wasn't expecting. Now, what's pretty great with this display case is that when you open it up, it actually causes the Pokeball to lift up. In addition to that, the base that the Pokeball is sitting in, which is this wonderful rubber material, will actually light up with a variety of LEDs. But better still is if you start touching the Pokeball label on the front of the casing, you can change the LED color, including stopping it, starting it, and so on and so forth. And it's just a very cool bit of attention to detail. But that's not all. On the bottom of the display box, you'll find a unique serial number to prove that this is a legitimate Pokemon replica and a unique one-of-a-kind item. But there is also a plastic flap sealed with a small screw. Now, when you unscrew this and open it up, you'll find a battery compartment. But in addition to that, there is also a stainless steel ring. Now, this ring can be taken out and actually inserted into the Pokeball logo sigil that has been carved into the top. In so doing, you now have an extra means of displaying your Pokeball on the display case instead of in it. And I really dig this, and I think it's a pretty cool and unusual extra feature that is rather welcome. So how much does this Pokeball replica go for? Well, I purchased this particular one from Sideshow Collectibles for $100. Although if you look around, you could possibly get it for a little bit more or a little bit less. With that said, for myself in particular, I also had to pay $50 shipping and then an additional $25 import duties, which means I paid $175 for this collectible. So was it worth it? As a fan of Pokemon, I absolutely want to say yes. The quality of the product is very good. It's a beautiful looking replica. It has great weight to it. But I do feel that, at least for me as a foreigner, someone who doesn't live in America, it is a little bit costly for what it is. But do I regret it? Not in the least. And I'm really glad to have it, and I'll probably buy some more. And if I do, well, you'll see more videos of those in the future. If you enjoyed this video, you know what to do, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Ciao for now. It's really cool. Like, I really dig this.